Go ahead and move away from City Hall and create something special.
As the landlord, they should fix it.
Two former mayors in Dallas weighing in on what they think should happen to City Hall. A lot of movement around the Horseshoe and in court over the iconic building's future. And
plus the city is top 300,000 population. What's going on here?
Plano's mayor answers the question and many more after capping off a busy few weeks with a game plan to bring the Dallas Stars to Plano. Eye on Politics starts right now. Hello again, everyone. Ken Molestina here in for Jack Fink this week. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday. I want to start now with the future of Dallas City Hall, a court fight, and how it appears the council is leaning at this time about the iconic building's future. On Friday, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson called for a special meeting on Wednesday, June 17th to vote on relocating City Hall. It's the latest turn in what was a very active week. Last Tuesday, a small group of council members won a temporary restraining order to hold off voting to leave City Hall and sell the land in a special called meeting. The council could only discuss one item the next day, a phased City Hall repair strategy that by some estimates would be over $500 million. However, in a 9-6 vote, the council rejected the idea and instead agreed on an amendment that gives the city manager until August 26th to come back with options for selling City Hall and leasing or buying space if city workers are moved out of the building.
One of the main things that have been asked for from my residents in my town hall and from many of the speakers over the course of this last several months is to have a true side-by-side comparison.
But we need to get serious about the fact that 15 acres is not going to be what is the catalyst for downtown.
Well, after the vote, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson issued a statement. It reads in part, quote, instead of delivering the Dallas taxpayers $1 billion invoice for a dilapidated government office building that is impeding the growth of a large section of our urban core, the city council took an important step toward realizing my vision of a downtown teeming with life, with community, and with social and economic activity. Before the city council meeting on Wednesday, Eye on Politics reporter Jack Fink sat down with two former mayors who occupied Dallas City Hall and have very different ideas about the building's future. Here's former Mayor Tom Leppert's response to Jack.
We need to create an exciting, dynamic downtown. It's critical. Nearly half of our tax base comes from downtown Dallas. And unfortunately, as we've seen over the last 6 months or so, downtown Dallas hasn't done as well as it could have or should have. We need to reimagine that, use the area around City Hall and the area that's being opened for the convention center, and really rethink downtown in a way that will attract people to live there, to come visit, to stay there, and to really contribute to not only Dallas, but the entire region. On top of that, we're faced with the issue at City Hall of putting well over $500 million into a building that creates no benefit other than for 1,000 or 2,000 people who work down there. But it doesn't create any new economic base. It doesn't create a tax base. It doesn't attract people. It doesn't do any of the things that we're going to need to build downtown. The combination of those two issues, I think it makes compelling on Wednesday to go ahead and move away from City Hall and create something special.
And the people who oppose that, the people who want to keep Dallas City Hall in place, have said it's paid for. And yes, it's going to cost money to keep it up. The city hasn't done that, obviously. And they say, why get rid of it? What do you say to that?
Well, it is going to cost a lot. Reality is you're going to be building a new building is what it comes down to. And we need to understand the whys of that. This is a 50-year-old building. 50-year-old buildings need new plumbing systems, new electrical systems, etc. And the way that it was built, largely concrete, it's going to be very expensive to address those issues. In addition to that, being 50 years old, what the initial estimates didn't include was how do you make it ADA compliant and how do we make it code compliant? Those are city codes. If you and I go in and make adjustments in buildings, we've got to bring the building up to code. The city's going to have to do the exact same thing. When you start adding those numbers together, Jack, you get to $500 to $600 million are the estimates. Then on top of that, you need interiors that's another $100 to $200 million. In addition to that, I can tell you, as someone who led the company that's the largest in the nation in building, I've never seen a project like that that comes in below the number. Once you open up those walls, once you start going into those systems, you're going to find a lot of other things that you're going to have to need to do that are going to push the time out and that are going to add cost. The short answer is it is almost a crime to the taxpayers of this city to put that much money into a building, especially when you've got 9 million square feet of available office buildings in the downtown area of Dallas. That's simply not being faithful to your responsibility as a fiduciary. And from a fiscal standpoint, it's literally irresponsible to put that much money into a building.
Well, Jack then had to sit down and asked former Mayor Laura Miller what she wants to see done to the building. Here's her answer.
As the landlord, they should fix it. What is really strange to me is that they would have a vote on this when we just heard that their hopeful tenant, the Mavs, want to go to Valley View. So why the rush? There's no plan for the building. There are no cost estimates on how much it's going to cost to demolish it. So there's no plan. So why are we rushing? And what's very telling to me is that the city manager would put on the item late on a Friday night on a special agenda that you can't delay if you're council members. So it's all very non-transparent.
And what, I mean, because you opposed that even beforehand, before the Mavs said no, right?
Correct. We have an IMPay building. It is significant, it is unique, it's been in movies, it's our home, it's our gathering place. And to think that we would scrape it for any reason is, I think, bizarre and not appropriate.
And what do you say to those, like, I mean, Mayor Leppert, his line to me was, it's almost a crime to taxpayers of the city to put that much money into a building?
Well, number one, I do not believe the inflated costs that are being thrown around about the buildings. And I think that we need to go back and get other people to tell us what it cost. You know, I was there for 5.5 years. Many mayors after me were there, and nobody said that City Hall is falling down. So all of a sudden, in the last 6 months, we have a decrepit building that needs to come down. That building will be around a lot longer than any human being on the planet right now. It is a very strong, solid building.
And so what do you say, though, because, I mean, there have been several firms, you know, I think 4 firms have now said it's going to cost, the latest estimates were that just to fix, put in the new systems, et cetera, anywhere from $531 to $611 million over the next 6 to 10 years in major repairs. Prior estimates were to fix it and modernize it, bring it up to ADA and other standards, would bring it to over $1 billion over a 20-year period. That's a lot of money, right?
Well, when you actually talk to the people that worked in the building for decades and took care of it, and they say these numbers are not accurate, and this is what's really necessary, and this is what we did in the building, and this is what we didn't do, and this is what has to be done now. It's a very different picture.
So the big question now is, what is next? According to the agenda posted, the council will vote on authorizing City Manager Kimberly Beiser-Tolbert to come up with 4 sites in the Dallas Central Business District for relocating City Hall. The second item authorizes Tolbert to come up with 4 sites in Dallas to relocate 911 and emergency operations. That meeting, by the way, is next Wednesday at 8 a.m. We turn our attention now to Plano. It has been an impressive business run recently for the city and its leadership. They're luring AT&T's headquarters away from downtown Dallas. Renderings give us an idea of what the billion-dollar project will look like at Legacy Drive and Parkwood Boulevard. And then Plano landed Samsung's North American headquarters as the tech company moves its U.S. operations from New Jersey down here to Texas. And finally, the Plano City Council approved up to $700 million in incentives to bring the Dallas Stars from Victory Park in Dallas and transform the shops at Willow Bend into a massive sports and entertainment destination. Eye on Politics reporter Jack Fink sat down with Plano Mayor John Muns the day after the City Council gave the green light for the Stars project. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think the main thing that's going on is the city of Plano is very intentional in what they do. They really value relationships, and at the same time, we get things done. We're user-friendly. We want our companies to know that if they choose us to build a new office here in Plano, it's going to get done expeditiously, and we're going to make sure that they get up and running as soon as possible.
What is the secret sauce, though? Because it's one thing to say it, to welcome people, et cetera, but to your point, to getting it done.
I think first and foremost, we talk a lot about this and just say, well, relationships really matter. But for us in Plano, we go see our companies on a regular basis, not just once a year, maybe 3 times a year. Check in on them. How you doing? How can we help you be more successful? We take these trips to Asia, to Korea and Japan and Taiwan to make sure that they understand how important they are to us. And that same thing holds true to somebody like a JP Morgan or an AT&T or the Dallas Stars. And so when the Dallas Stars approached us over a year and a half ago and said, you know, we might be interested in moving. Obviously, we didn't know about some of the conflicts that were going on in Dallas and the Mavericks and things like that. But we said, we'd love to pursue that opportunity. And those talks started immediately.
Were you surprised?
At first, yes, I was.
And was this always going to be at the Willow Bend Mall site?
Yes.
Why? What was their attraction?
Well, this comes from the Stars. So I will tell you that the Stars told us you can say the Willow Bend Mall, but really it's the tollway intersection of the Bush is the bullseye for their season ticket holders. So in that radius of whatever that radius might be, that's where the center of the earth is for them. And so that was really important to them to really kind of realign where their season ticket holders were and try to make it easier for all of them to get to an arena.
And I was going to ask you, because there's no light rail site, which a lot of people have mentioned, you know, bus routes, et cetera. Doesn't sound like they need that.
It doesn't, but at the same time, and we're already having conversations with DART about making plans for definitely buses and rideshare and things like that. But even rail, we're working on some opportunities where tracks already exist to try to see, you know, will we be able to do that in a 5-year period? I don't know, but those talks are definitely ongoing to help get people to where they need to get to efficiently. That may not be in that radius that I'm talking about, but still want to come to the Stars games.
And so, I mean, you've got the new rail, the Silver Line.
Silver Line.
So you're talking about an offshoot of the Silver Line towards that site, the Willow Bend site?
I mean, that's a possibility, but it really would be an offshoot of the Red Line that would kind of go northwest towards the tollway and a little beyond that and be able to be just west of the mall area.
So from Central?
From Central.
All the northwest, crossing the Bush?
Yeah, being north of the Bush. There's a track that actually is on the north side of the Bush, whereas the Silver Line's on the south side.
So it would be potentially Plano investing $700 million into this $3 billion project, right?
Right, correct.
And so how is the city going to pay for that?
Well, so we create a TIRZ, Tax Increment Financing Zone, and it's up and down the tollway from Plano Parkway all the way up to Windhaven on the east side and the west side of the tollway. So we have a lot of commercial and retail up and down that area. nobody's taxes will change. We will just designate that revenue to Willow Bend for a 41-year period.
And that will be enough to pay for that without raising property taxes, et cetera.
We will not raise property taxes at all. The only other area that we will ask for that we talked about last night would be some revenue user taxes for parking, tickets, rent-a-car, hotel, motel.
So those users would be paying an additional.
Yeah, we have no new taxes for any of our residents to do this deal.
The race for governor is on. Republican Governor Greg Abbott is going for a fourth term. He faces Democratic State Representative Gina Hinojosa. And she campaigned in North Texas last week by launching Team Texas Public Schools. Hinojosa told our Jack Fink about the effort to make education one of the big campaign issues ahead of the election in November.
We have over 100 schools in this state shutting down. We have over 150 school districts at 4 days a week because they can't afford 5 days a week. I first ran for office because my own son's school was shutting down. That is the experience of millions of Texans right now, despite the fact that our property taxes have gone up 75% under Greg Abbott. We pay more, we get less. I talk about the Greg Abbott corruption tax. More and more of our money is going to corrupt vendor contracts. That ends when I'm governor.
How does this new offshoot, I guess, this new Team Texas Public Schools, how does that interact with your campaign? How does that fit into your campaign?
It is organizing to get out the vote for those of us who love our public schools and are ready to defend them and fight for them. And I encounter that amongst Republicans. I encounter that amongst just people who see what has happened to the public schools and the deterioration under Greg Abbott, who are ready to take a stand. And so it is targeting a different population of voters who are concerned in a big way with public schools.
Well, the press secretary for Greg Abbott's re-election campaign responded saying the facts are simple. Public school funding is at an all-time high of nearly $90 billion, and average teacher pay has risen by 30% since Governor Abbott took office. Governor Abbott also added over $8.5 billion in new funding for public education last session alone, including nearly $4 billion in teacher pay. School closures are driven by enrollment and demographic trends, not a lack of state funding. And a milestone for the Texas Education Freedom Accounts Program. Acting Texas Comptroller Kelly Hancock announced last week that more than 102,000 students have been approved for the state-funded Education Savings Program. Families have until July 15th to confirm enrollment in a participating private school, select homeschool, or opt out of the program altogether. An estimated 145,000 students remain on that wait list to get into the program. More cases of the new world screwworm have been reported in South Texas. The screwworm is not a worm. Matter of fact, it's a parasitic fly. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins made 2 visits to Texas in the last week as sterile flies are being released in chambers like this one to try and effectively control the population. A facility to produce more sterile flies is under construction now in South Texas.
I also want to continue to ensure this does not affect the food supply system. This is not a virus. It is not a disease. It is a pest. And so we obviously are treating it as such, but the food supply system remains intact and couldn't be safer.
Well, the screwworm can spread through open wounds of livestock and is being seen as a potential threat to the beef industry. Extended training for new ICE officers and extra instruction for some current agents is underway. Sarah Jenkins explains in the brief.
According to an internal ICE memo obtained by CBS News, ICE will expand its core training program from 42 days to about 71 days, beginning in July at the Federal Training Center in Georgia. The changes come after months of criticism from Democratic lawmakers, immigration advocates, and former ICE officials who questioned whether the shortened training adequately prepared agents for enforcement duties. Concerns grew after the controversial immigration operation in Minneapolis, during which federal agents fatally shot 2 U.S. citizens. The administration later scaled back that crackdown after bipartisan criticism. ICE says officers trained under the previous 42-day program will now undergo supplemental instruction. The Department of Homeland Security says the expanded curriculum will include crowd control tactics, high-risk vehicle stop training, live fire officer safety exercises, and medical training. Officials say the changes are aimed at improving officer safety, operational effectiveness, and compliance with federal laws and agency policies. For The Brief, I'm Sarah Jenkins.
Remember, you can watch Jack's full interviews from today on our CBS Texas YouTube page. While there, check out the Eye on Politics playlist and hit the subscribe button. That's all for Eye on Politics for this Sunday. Thanks for watching. Jack will be back next week. For all of us here at CBS News Texas, I'm Ken Molestina. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.